Hello. This is the first episode of a cooking series that I'm going to do. I guess, first of all, my name is Ryan. If you are unfamiliar, I am a person that likes to cook. So I am going to do that. And the whole premise of this whole thing is I am going to cook a dish from every country across the world. And I am going to start with the Seychelles, which is an East African country. And this is smoking with the oil. So I am going to go ahead and get the chicken in there because I'm going to be making some curry. There we go. Really just to kind of crisp this up. A little bit too hot. It might be kind of loud for the first little bit of this, but that is just part of the business. Okay. We'll throw this in the trash. Put a little salt and pepper in there. There we go. A little salt. And a little bit of pepper. I'll show you the ingredients here in just a minute. So what we've got, making a delicious dish. It is called Creole chicken curry, and I will tell you a little bit more about the Seychelles in a minute. But you've got some naan that I did not make myself, but there is some saffron, ginger and garlic, quite a bit of onion, a few onions actually. Got some parsley, cilantro, red pepper flakes, curry powder, tomato paste, and some water, and then salt and pepper obligatorily, of course. There's the chicken. Just really gonna crisp the chicken up. Gonna make it nice and toasty, so it gets a little crust on it, and then going to set it aside and then make the curry, and then we're going to set the chicken back in it, and we'll cook the chicken while the curry is doing its thing. Okay, so let's see. Seychelles. A little bit of insight and information about the Seychelles. I did a little bit of searching on the interwebs and compiled a little research. So one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting about the Seychelles when I was doing a little bit of investigation about the country is, it's based off of the eastern part of Africa, and it's actually a collection of islands. There's about 90,000 people total that live there. It has a pretty vibrant fusion of African, French, Indian, and Chinese. The majority of that being African and French, and quite a bit of Indian, and then Chinese is pretty sparse. But seafood, as you can imagine, islands are rife with the seafood, pineapples. They do a lot of staples. Typically what they'll do anywhere with food is they'll use what's available to them. And I probably should check on this chicken real quick. It's looking like it's getting a little bit of a crust on it, which is what we want. So go ahead and... One thing, this is maybe just like a general pro tip when you're cooking. Anytime that you put meat in oil, or vegetables or anything else, you want to make sure that it's toasty. That way it gets a little caramelization on it, or it's called the Maillard reaction. Like, creates a little bit of deliciousness there. Sorry if you can't hear me over the popping of the oil. Anywho, what's-its? So yeah, people use the ingredients to cook based on what's available. When you're on an island, seafood. A lot of tropical places they're more, they have a climate typically that are good for tropical fruit. So they've got mangoes, papayas, bananas, coconuts, which you will hear in just a little bit, are some staple like dessert items and things that have some natural sweetness to them. Spices that they like to cook with, you've got lemongrass, curry leaves, garlic, chili, ginger, and then the seafood that they use, tuna, red snapper, octopus, and lobster are the most common ones. And then staple food generally, rice, cassava, and lentils. All right, I'm going to flip this chicken, and then I'll show you the crust that's on it. Pieces of these are pretty well browned. Little crispies. There we go. Come on over. The water is fine, or the oil. I guess the oil would probably hurt pretty bad if you jumped in it right now, but it's the chicken, what the chicken's up to. Okay, so we let this cook for just a little bit longer. We don't want to overcook it because we're going to be setting it in the curry. But just want to get a little bit of a crust on there, so cook that for just a little bit longer. Okay, a couple more fun facts. One of the things I wanted to focus on with this project is how people eat, the customs around like what they eat and how they decide to eat as a group. And some countries have more like more customary tradition type things than others. Some of it's a little more laid back. There are a lot of countries that have a lot of their eating practices founded around family and eating with groups, and some of that has to do with the culture, some of it has to do with convenience and speed and all sorts of other stuff. Some drinks that you can savor while you're in the Seychelles. You've got coconut water. There's this thing called kalu, I think I'm saying that correctly, local fermented palm wine, which I think would be interesting to try sometime. And then they also have a rum that's native called Takamaka rum, which is locally distilled, and it's available in white, dark, and flavored varieties. I think this chicken is good. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and set it on a plate. And then I'm going to drain the oil, because we really don't want a whole lot of extra oil in there. Especially when we're going to be cooking. I'm going to grab a bowl real quick. That will not break. That's what these nifty mason jars can be used for. And then just pour this oil in there. Also fat, which we can save for other things. Excess oil out of there. These Dutch ovens are great, by the way, if you are looking for an investment for a kitchen item. It is one of the things I use most often, and it is also useful and able to be used for a ton of different things. So you can use it for stews, you can fry things in it like I just did with chicken. Nice thing is, like, once you get the fond off the bottom, or the little bits of deliciousness that's left behind when you cook something, you can use that, reduce some things, use an acid or wine or something like that, and you can make a sauce, which is also pretty great and fun. We can go ahead and get started with the curry. So the first thing that we're going to do is pop this back on the heat. And I guess I kind of crank the heat up just a little bit more. And then, let's see, since I've never made this recipe before, I'm also going to refer to it a couple of times. So feel free to, I don't know, check your stocks, or go to the Seychelles and show whether this is actually somewhat that's authentic. Also, I can't claim that anything is perfectly authentic. I'm looking for recipes online. Can find all sorts of stuff. One thing that's interesting about saffron as an ingredient, if you are unfamiliar with what saffron is, it's the pistil of a flower. So you can kind of see and it packs a punch. Is also the most expensive spice you can buy, I guess. I didn't know that before I went and got some. But it typically comes in a little container that looks like this. At least where I can find it. This little thing should last 4 meals for 4 people. So that is pretty nifty. And this is my very first time ever cooking with it. So we got a lot of onion. So we're going to go ahead and throw the onions in here. And I'm going to use this nifty spatula. Let's kind of move everything around in here. Toss the saffron in. Doo-doo-doo. And the red pepper flakes, because you know what? We like it spicy here in the Anderson Clark household. So I will put that in there. One thing that you might notice is I have everything prepped and ready to go and chopped up and everything, and I didn't feel like people probably wanted to see that. Maybe they did, but I like to have everything ready to go for mise en place is what that's called. It's just a way to make sure that everything's got like everything in its place, so you don't have to spend a ton of time in between steps chopping things up and cutting them and smashing them or grinding them or whatever you need to do. And so that's kind of the first step here, is getting all this nice and sauteed up. And use a little bit of oil. I could probably there's probably enough residual oil in there that I don't need to add anything. Temperatures should be up. Turn it up a little bit higher. And this is a clunky trying to figure out the flow first episode, so it is all good. But while that's doing its thing, I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of oil. I just have this little nifty gun that can spray some stuff on there. And it's cool if you also are looking for a new oil dispenser for your cooking. I don't necessarily stand by their brand because I don't know where any of the other places you could probably buy one. I bought this on Amazon, I think. But there's a little switch here at the top that pops up, and you can just pour the oil too. So this is great if you're, I don't know, cooking pancakes or whatever else, and you want to put some oil in it to do whatever you need to do. So this is gonna sweat these onions for like 7 or 8 minutes. And while we're doing that, I can go ahead and show you what it looks like. Looks like onions. I use yellow onions. It didn't specify in the recipe what kind of onions to use. So that is what I decided, because I think yellow onions have great flavor. And that's what I wanted to do. So there we go. Okay, so more about the Seychelles and dining customs and etiquette. Their mealtime, they typically eat lunch as their main meal, which means it's typically the heartiest one. Dinner's lighter, but that's often shared with family and friends. Hospitality, as a lot of places that are tropical, they accommodate a lot of tourism and a lot of people visiting the island. So guests, whenever you go into someone's home, you're typically going to be offered some food or drink, and it's polite to accept even a little bit, which I think is pretty customary for pretty much any place you would go. If someone offers you some food or something to drink, is to accept even just a little tiny taste, because they often went out of their way to make it for you. Dress code, I'm not sure how accurate this is because I don't know, and this is something that I just found randomly on a travel blog, but it's casual but modest, especially in someone's home or when you're out at a restaurant. Victoria is the capital of the Seychelles, and a tip if you ever go there, that I found is that you should go to the market in Victoria because they've got a ton of really good spices, fresh fish, and they have street food like banana chips and samosas. And if you've never had banana chips, they're really good. It's just like thinly sliced bananas that they fry up, and they're tasty. And you can probably find some at the grocery store if you look for it. Okie doke. And then they have these things called takeaway stalls, which are like called snack shops, which I also thought was interesting. They are perfect for like a quick, authentic bite. So they do a lot of Creole cooking, like Creole-inspired cooking, because of the French influence. And that's what we're making tonight is Creole curry with chicken. So that is that. Which is kind of cool, and that just kind of plays into the next fact, which is they have Creole buffets. So they have a lot of guest houses and beach houses. They offer nightly buffets of Creole cooking, which is delicious because I like the aromatics. And this is just my personal preference and taste, pun intended. Is that I really enjoy anything that's really aromatic in cooking. So I love a lot of garlic, love a lot of ginger, anything that's going to get your senses going before you even start eating the food, and also while you're cooking it. And sometimes it's tough because there's some research that shows that if you're smelling the food as you're cooking it, it doesn't taste as good to you after the fact. But I think the whole holistic experience is pretty awesome. So that's just my personal take. And then, another little bit of information that I found is that, kind of slowing down and enjoying what you're doing, sharing stories. It was encouraged to just like, it's island life. Just slow down and enjoy what you're doing and where you're at and what's going on. So pretty cool. Those were just some quick tips and ideas and a little background about the culture and the people and how they eat and what they used to cook. A couple of special items that I came across is they make a mango and coconut nougat as a dessert, which I couldn't really find exactly how it was made, but a lot of people that had been there that talked about it said it was really good. And a lot of those fruits that have natural sweetness to them, you don't even have to add, a ton of sugar or anything, because boom, baby. Okay, these onions are looking pretty good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in some ginger and garlic after we add salt and pepper, because this next step is, and I can smell that saffron. It's pretty good. A fun fact about saffron that I did not know before today. The pistil of the flower, I think it's called the caroba flower. Actually, let me double check on that, because I felt pretty confident about it, but now I want to double check. The crocus flower. It takes 70,000 hand-picked pistils to make 1 pound of saffron, which is insane. There are a lot of, and if you go to Morocco is one of the more popular, famous places where you can get saffron in cooking, because that's where those flowers are, apparently, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a very distinct smell, and you can order things like saffron rice at restaurants, which is super, super tasty. So strongly encourage you to try that if you've never had saffron before. Okay, let's see. What is next? I feel like we can go ahead and add some salt and some pepper. And I just typically eyeball if it doesn't tell you how much, and then I taste as I go. So I'll just put a couple of teaspoons of salt, and typically what happens is things are under-seasoned, not over-seasoned. And with this, there's a lot of stuff going on, so I'm going to be a little underhanded as I typically would be with some things. Like, there's going to be curry powder and garlic and ginger and all sorts of delicious stuff So I don't really want to add a ton of salt and a ton of pepper before I know what the flavor is going to be. So I'm just going to wait and see how some of this shakes out. See what I did there. I'm going to make a ton of bad jokes throughout this whole series. I'm just forewarning you. Also, none of this is scripted. I mean, I read some stuff off of the phone, and I also intend maybe like the next episode or a few episodes later or something, weaving in the music too. I just don't want it to be too loud. I'm trying to figure out like how the dynamic is going to function with recording and all the sound, because I don't have a professional sound setup. I haven't tested anything, so this is experimentation. You're experimenting with me. So then we go ahead and throw in the garlic and the ginger, and we give that a good stir. I'll bring you over with me so you can kind of see what is happening. So I'm just kind of mixing this stuff in there. And typically with garlic and ginger, since it's so delicate, you don't really want to cook it for too long. Again, maybe I should, let's see. I should give a disclaimer. I am not a professional chef. I have not been professionally trained. So anything that I say could not be, could be wrong. These are things that have just worked for me when I've been cooking. But I think objectively, with something like garlic and ginger, you don't really want to cook it too long because then it will be burned and become bitter. So that is typically what you would want to do. So we'll let this kind of become aromatic for about a minute. And then we'll move on to the next step. And the next step is to add some tomato paste. And tomato paste is good because it adds some caramelization. And you do have to cook the tomato paste a little bit because it's naturally a little bit bitter from the acid. So you just kind of do your thing, throw in the tomato paste. You don't have to throw it, you can just put it in there. I mean, if you have a trebuchet across your kitchen and you want to be creative, Ratatouille style, and launch it, then be my guest. Another reference to a Disney movie. Okay. Maybe a lot of people would yell at me for not wearing a kitchen apron right now, but again, this is episode 1, trying to sort through. That's been about probably a little longer than a minute actually, so let's go ahead and throw this tomato paste in here. And you can use, as far as brands and all that kind of stuff, really there is just absolutely no specificity. I'm not really loyal to any specific brands. I won't even get into the discussion about things being organic or GMO or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know enough about the science to be able to say one way or the other. So it's really just what you feel comfortable with. And we're just going to kind of cook this tomato paste out. And also, this is just maybe like not a word to the wise, but just a word for anybody. Tomato paste and tomato sauce are different things. And I learned that lesson the hard way. When I first started cooking and following recipes and stuff, and I would argue especially initially, I'm kind of a chronic recipe follower where I want to follow pretty much to the T. Some things I'll eyeball, but I'll probably add more garlic. Thanks. Shout out to my good friend Jimbo Slice. He has encouraged me to garlic it up more so than I probably would otherwise because it just adds such great flavor. So I probably double or even sometimes triple the amount of garlic that a recipe will tell me to put in there, which is totally fine. But anywho, that is a little bit of that. And this is actually looking and smelling really, really good. Let me go ahead and show you what things are looking like right now. So we got some onions and some red pepper flakes and some freedom in there. One of the things that motivated me to do this project is I love cooking, but I also love learning. I love culture. I love people. I love learning about people and what they're passionate about, what they care about. And if food is one of the things they will never taste exactly the same way the second time. You could follow the recipe to the T. You could use a scale, and you could weigh all the ingredients. But the way the fruit, the way the vegetable, the way the meat tastes is going to be slightly different every time. The humidity in your room, how long you leave things out to rest before you start cooking them. I mean, it's all just such a variable experience. And so I figured, you know what? Capturing moments in time like this, in the odd chance that somebody else would appreciate it, enjoy it, maybe they would say, wow, I'm glad that somebody else is cooking so I don't have to. Then, you know what? I consider that a win. So, anywho, so that is this. Gonna cook the onions down just a little bit more, probably have like another minute, and get some of that bitterness out of the tomato paste. And then add the water and the curry powder. Yeah. Just kind of mix this in. Ooh, that smells so good. I don't know if any of you have tried cooking with garam masala, but it's amazing. It's incredible. I get the same joy out of curry powder as I do garam masala. I love to make Indian food. I love to make any, again, aromatic. There's so many layers of complexity and flavor. The texture, all of it is just so good, and I love to dial up the heat too. So I'll put a lot of peppers and yeah, you name it, is going to be spicy. Especially if I'm the only person eating it, which, unless people want to join, I will be eating most, if not all, of this food on my own. Until my son becomes adventurous enough to try it. He did help me with a couple of things to prep, even if it's just moral support. But someday, I hope to be able to share this. He's 3, so he likes his beige food. And even though you could probably argue that this is somewhat beige colored right now, it's, not fruit snacks. It's not fruit snacks. So, might as well be to me, though. It smells so good. I'm also making some basmati rice, because that was another part of the recommended dish. And the thing that really makes this more Seychelles is that it's a Creole curry. The stuff that I put in here, I've got some coriander, some cilantro, all the stuff that's good. Let me go ahead and throw this in. And throw in the cilantro. Mix all this together. And then I'm going to pour the water in. Maybe I'm just going to try a little bit of this first. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix all this together. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. Well, we're cooking with electricity, but go ahead and show you what I'm looking at. So I put in some parsley and some cilantro, and we're really just going to simmer this for about 30 minutes. And don't worry, you don't have to listen to me make bad jokes that whole time. I'm going to taste this to see where we're at and how things are tasting. It could use... Oh, it's kind of spicy. Maybe... No, actually it doesn't need anything. That's actually really well seasoned. That almost never happens the first time. Now I'm going to take some water. High quality H2O, as Bobby Boucher would say. It's about 2 cups. I might actually add a little more because this is going to reduce, especially with the chicken. I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit more. And then what we're going to do is we are going to simmer this, like I said, for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to bring the heat up. Actually, I'll just wait for the heat to come back and get this bubbling. And then we will do that. So we're going to put the chicken back in the stuff, in the curry, and then we'll let it just kind of do its thing. And simmer it for a long time. Any questions? I know this is not live, but if you have any questions, I guess I didn't even do a proper introduction. So I'm calling this experiment, it's Tour of the Palate, a taste from every country. So the goal is to make a meal from every country in the whole world. And I don't really have a rhyme or reason about why I decided to do a country from, or a meal from every country in the whole world. I just thought, you know what, this would be a good way to expand my horizons and also to learn about things. So, and if you have questions, comments, or concerns, you can send me an email. I created a Gmail. I'm going to upload this to YouTube, but you can send me an email. It's called Tour of the Palate, and for Palate, it's Palate, and that's all one word, at gmail.com. You can send me questions. Of course, on YouTube, you can comment on videos and things. Feel free to like, subscribe, whatever you would like to do. Even if you just wanted to look at it and say, wow, I definitely don't want to make a YouTube channel where I do that too. So yeah, that's what I've got. I will be back in like 30 minutes when this chicken is cooked through, because you don't want to eat raw chicken if you're a human. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Okay, be back.